Hello and welcome to the stream. I'm Tiger Chimera, and just a second. Hey, so apologies if there's some noises. I'm probably gonna have the mic off more than I'd like this stream, or at least for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean by like, at the complete mercy of my neighbors, and however long they decide to play that music. It irritates me how thin the walls in this house are, which is perfect for streaming, but I can't really afford to just go out and move. Complaining over, of course, today I'm deciding to continue doing a stream that requires me to talk a lot. Maybe I should, like, okay, it looks like having the mic moved. I hope I'm not like too super loud here. Looks like having it moved, like, at least whenever I'm not talking, it won't be picking it up as much. But yeah, part of me hates to do it while that's happening, but I can never tell when it's going to happen. It just always just kind of starts randomly. It seems like. Hopefully, it's not nearly as audible as it looks on the thing, or it looked before I moved the mic. I personally can only hear thumping, so hopefully it's not that much anyway. But I guess I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to be continuing the game dev thing of working on the solo TTRPG based on Homestuck, and I'm not expecting to get as much progress as last time, or fill up as much time. So I'm planning to do a game afterwards, a quick session or two of Isaac, depending on like how long the dev part takes. I might end up doing a lot more, but I might not end up doing that much. We'll see when I get into it. I have at least some stuff that I can go over, so I'll do a quick intermission, get everything set up, and I'll be back. Alright. We are back, and I'm gonna see if I can try to use the drawing pad more today than the mouse. Whether it is a bonus or an indictment on my artistic skill, I can use the drawing pad and the mouse in almost equal amounts of quality of drawing. Maybe that just means that I've had a lot more practice with the mouse than with the pen, or like sort of equal as, I don't know, like, I mean, some people don't get as much out of the mouse, so I might have a little bit more with the mouse and the pen to have that even out in that way, but not that I'm going to be drawing a lot here anyway. I'm mostly using it for other purposes. Alright. So... no, okay. So I've got a few things that I'm planning to kind of go over. Or maybe, it depends on if I have ideas for them as I work on this. And I guess, like, one thing that I need to do with this project is just throw as much as I can at it, and then just playtest it, and then just release it. I think I'm the kind of person that I'm not super perfectionist, but I'm perfectionist enough that it's killed a lot of things where it might have been fine, but I'm like, is that really the best way to handle a thing? And I just need to, like, turn off that part of my brain as hard as I can and just be like, this is gonna be messy. The best I can do is make something that sort of works. I'm gonna try to do a good job at this, but I think I need to, like, at least at the first pass or two at this, just, you know, do whatever, even if it doesn't feel perfectly right, because one thing about this, trying to translate this game, I'll say from some of the stuff I was looking over and kind of getting reminded of, and I've seen in the past, and from what I experienced from other people's attempts at, like, regular TTRPGs, not solo TTRPGs, is that there's some difficulties in properly translating Sburb as a concept into a proper full playable game, and not just for not for, like, the many intricacies and details, which is a issue, but it's not inconceivable. It's not even, you know, it's not even for, like, some of the mechanics being the kind of thing that work well in the original medium of an interactive comic, but being practically inviable for other mediums. I guess if you're going to have it in any other medium, the tabletop medium is probably the only other one that it works in, with, like for alchemy, for example, because that is practically infinite, and you can't realistically duplicate what the alchemy system is in any medium that isn't immediately, like, more flexible, like a actual human being kind of responding to the thing. I've seen some attempts that are, like, better or worse than each other at trying to replicate it in a more strict video game format. And that might be something that'd be fun to look at in later streams about other stuff, but But yeah, those aren't even the things that are like the worst. Like, you can at least kind of make a sort of bridge gap in terms of like a video game thing for an Alchemy system to be like, hey, this is a sort of approximation that's close enough for the purposes of this. One of the things that's the worst is how many, and it's kind of funny that it's the inverse problem of the large number of things that are in Sburb. One of the big issues, I would say, and I would argue, is the large number of things that aren't defined in Sburb, that aren't defined in the original comic, that if you want to kind of make a proper full version of Sburb, you have to make some leaps and bounds and make some assumptions and stuff. Like, a lot of stuff is not fully laid out, and I'll probably get over all of those bumps as we go through this process. But I will say how I am personally planning to address some of this stuff is that whenever possible, if there is an option to handle a thing by simplifying it as much as possible, I think that's what I'm going to lean into. For a variety of reasons, I want to make this as simple a version as possible. And I guess I'll mention like not keeping people in suspense on purpose or anything. That part of the reason is that one of the mechanics that I want to add, I've made kind of a list of like the order in which I'm going to try to tackle certain mechanics, or at least a generalized, order. It's not a strict order, but it's like, things that make more sense to try to cover early on versus things that kind of need to be done later because they depend on other things. And then, the things that are mostly just kind of like narrative building kind of stuff. But one of the things that's kind of the lowest on the list, because it depends on so many other things existing, is the rule adding thing. Because if there's one thing that is true to both Homestuck and Sburb as existing things, is that no matter how many things exist as a mechanic, you can always count on something else popping up. And I feel like, if anything, the spirit of Homestuck on a mechanical level is just an extra thing to make things even more complicated, popping up every now and again. And I want to make that an explicit mechanic that may or may not be engaged in depending on the player's preference. And so anything that is in a more vague area that is a more complexity, I think I will allow to be a part of that, or part of like a possible like rule extension document for a more complex version of this. But I want to have the very base of this be a very, very, very simple. And to start out with that, I've come up with hopefully one of the most simple combat systems that I can think of. Because, I can't avoid combat in something like this, but combat also generally sucks in tabletop stuff, in my opinion. So making that as simple as possible, I think, is a good compromise for that. Do I need to turn this down? I think I need to turn it down. I hope that wasn't too loud this whole time. If that was like annoyingly loud during that whole spiel, I apologize, and I'm no. Oh boy. Okay, so I've got a little paper of like some of the things that I've figured out that I'm going to copy onto an official thing here. and I'll kind of expand it as we kind of get into it. But this will be combat concepts. Okay, so to start, combat be played out by D100 for damage. I'm gonna... How far in should I zoom? I think that far is probably good. Yeah, that's probably good. Wait, how close is the next one? How about we make this an even 40%? There we go. That's a nice in between, I think. Okay. And that seems probably really simple. Just damn it. Thanks for joining, Slushy Jackal. Hope you enjoy the stream. It might seem simple, but it's a solo TTRPG. We don't gotta worry about other players. We're definitely planning to let players add depth, and there's some possible depth modifier things that'll go on here, and I'll get into that as I go on. But yeah, the initial thing is combat is played out by rolling D100. Things. Yeah, I might have to mess with the notification thing to be more readable on the backdrop there for me, but or maybe it's just because there's a little I have this OBS a little small. Okay. Expand on this. Image is damage, and it will be automatic and undodgeable, and the characters will always get a first attack in unless traits or rules say otherwise. Now, extra rules can always be added in if people want to add a speed stat or something. There won't be a speed stat by default, but I will have some sort of trait system for both boosting the character and also for boosting certain enemies that will need, extra strength. I guess I should define that next. Combat traits will be passive bonuses to Either player-controlled NPC or enemy, just to outline that right away. I think I'll go a little bit down. I might add more stuff for... That's the central stuff, and I might add more to that in a bit, but I want to, like, separate it here a little bit. Underling health will have a base mount based on the type. Alright, and yeah, I'll just copy it from here. I'll probably have like original stuff or something whenever I do the actual thing, but paste. Was it this as on monitor? I think is more helpful, actually. Can I separate these, I guess, is a good question. If there's a way to... The problem with... One of the many problems with Kitra is that it makes certain things take a couple extra steps that feel fairly unnecessary. And I just want to separate these images out. I don't remember how to... I feel like I've figured out how to, like... Like, it's not editable in this state. I need to figure out how to... You know what? I'm just going to, like... Edit. Let's paste another one in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another layer. And I'm just going to paint over all of the things. They're going to still technically be there if I have to move them or anything for any reason. But at least this way, I can just have them here. And they're not in proper order because... But I'm not even going to worry about that. Wait. Okay. So imps are going to have the base of 20 HP. I'm just going to double check here. And these are subject to change, but like it's going to be based on, you know, the kind of general. It's I'd say it's kind of like 40-60% of a game design and document and brainstorming. Like this, I'm still kind of like fairly early into it. It just depends on like how many iterations this goes through, I guess. Like the numbers I'm putting on the HP of these guys is probably subject to change, but it is like kind of brainstorming too. Like some of this I've already kind of figured out, but like I'm going to be quickly going into a more brainstorming kind of mode. Okay. Ogres will be a jump to 100. Definitely interesting. Because you have no clue about Homestuck. You're the like, including last week, you're like the third person that's come on to talk and haven't actually seen the thing that I'm making this based off of. And that's kind of interesting. I expected at least someone, at least one of the people, to have more of an idea. Not a complaint so much as just a curiosity that get here for the game dev more than anything. Well, that's understandable and probably why the other people came. I will say Homestuck is a interesting comic. I both recommend it, but I also have to warn that it's fairly long. It covers a vast number of subjects, and it's an old internet thing. It's got, you know, old internet, not perfect things in it. So that's kind of a warning for that. But it is something I would still recommend for general reading. Not Homestuck 2, because that's not canon and there's problems that I can't go into without spoiling or wasting the entire stream talking about. But Homestuck, if anything else, Sburb within Homestuck is a very interesting video gamey kind of thing. And I say video gamey kind of thing because it's both video game and creation myth of the entire reality within the Homestuck. And that is major spoilers, but hey, this is major spoilers. I forgot to put major spoilers on the name of this. I mean, it should be obvious, but I forgot to do it like I did last week. I've updated it now. Oh, yeah. Currently, I'm just kind of working on the basic combat system, which is... This is going to be a gross simplification of the thing, because I'm going to make I might make the actual way that Homestuck's combat work kind of an optional side mechanic to add to this. That's how I'm handling a lot of this. Sburb is fairly complex and multifaceted, so I want to only involve the stuff that absolutely necessary for running it, and the core design, and maybe make a side thing of like optional rules, because the combat system is weird. But I guess to like give you a general idea of what Sburb is like, it's kind of like, it's a lot of things, but basically it's kind of a combination of like a house building thing where you build from your own house. Well, it's a multiplayer game, so other people build the house up for you. But also an adventure game, because there's entire planets to explore and these kind of things to fight and quests to do. It's a bit of a lot of different kinds of video games. Fantasy adventure with building and crafting mechanics is probably a good simplification for now. Okay. Oh wait, no, I need to do the health too. Okay, so and agent, okay. Arch agent. So, agents, and this is subject to change, but I figure this is kind of a good balance. Regular agents will have 200 HP, and okay, I should probably alter this to have it say HP there too. And arch agents will have 500, and both will have traits to boost their combat ability. Okay, weapons used in combat will add a straight amount of damage. Not straight. My brain is using set. Set is the right word. I was trying to think of the word of like non-variable. And use any combat traits, because the weapons will have combat traits too. non-variable, I would call constant. Oh yeah, I think set works too, but I think would constant. I think I'll stick with set. I appreciate the constant word, but I feel like constant would kind of imply a recurrent, in something like saying constant damage in combat. That would make me think more of like a poison or fire effect. So I think a constant in different circumstances would be a correct word. It just would be like confusing, yeah, slightly confusing language in this context. There might be constant damage, but that might be like more of a, yeah. So we'll say set for that. Now, alchemizing weapons have a chance to gain combat trace based on resulting item. Okay, I'm closing that one out, and I'm gonna, I guess, rename it. Open that up. I think, without like going into specifics about traits and stuff, I think this is a good baseline. Now I'm at the point where I have to make a decision, what mechanic do I work on next, and I'm... This one I had a couple of notes on what I wanted to go in the direction of. The next stuff is going to be pure brainstorming. Well, not pure brainstorming. Some of it's based on existing stuff, but it's going to not be as prepared. I'm just, before I do anything else with these, I'm gonna like label each of these files. Okay, content. I put concepts with an S, so I'll just do that. Oh wait, I want that to also be large. That's set there. And that's house construction concepts. Okay, so I'll save these files. Okay, so I guess this is going to kind of be item concepts too. Just trying to think of where to even start. Like, do I make a tier system for items? How? Yeah, I guess this is the thing. So, with how alchemy system works in Homestuck, being the hyper-flexible reality video game that it is that you can put the codes of 2 different items into a thing, and I'm skipping a lot of steps here because there's a lot of nonsense steps in the middle of it mechanically. But you get 2 codes for items, you put it in, and if you have the money to pay for it, then you can create an item that is a combination of those 2 items. And you can do that for any item, so you can make any combination of stuff. Yeah, some sort of merge mechanic. That is what I'm wondering. Like, I guess there's kind of 2 sides of it. Something like a continuous power level instead of set tiers. Yeah, that's possible. And it's also possible to maybe make a... Yeah, power level. Power level is probably the better way, and that also kind of scales better with the combat damage system. Yeah, that's a good idea, Susie Jackal. But yeah, and the good thing is that, you know, you can limit that fairly well by, like, you can restrict it easily to the weapons that are being used because there's a pretty strict way that this Sburb handles weapons. Basically, like, you don't want to backseat dev or something, so forgive. Thanks for the consideration. I'll let you know, but I'm glad for that input. That's like, I definitely don't have any problem with, like, some input. And since this is based on another person's property, I'm not going to worry about, like, how many hands are in this pot kind of thing. Worrying about, like, making it only my own if I release and charge for it, because this is not going to be a charge for thing, because this is based on a pre-existing thing, so this is going to be a free thing when it's done. So yeah, I don't know how paranoid I should be about, like, slight help whenever it comes to paid release game stuff, but I am maybe a little paranoid about stuff because I know some things like that can be a nightmare. But that's an entirely different topic that doesn't matter to this game right here for the reasons I've listed, and I should not ramble. Okay, so... Strife items, weapons. We'll damage bonus scaling from 1 to 10 based on the item itself. Okay. And I'm not making it like and this is, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, since this is going to be largely a narrative thing, there's going to be some variability with this kind of stuff. I'm doing kind of like 1 to 10 arbitrarily, but, you know, some things are going to be variable, like, you know, like say you have the strife thing be a hammer. Like a regular handheld hammer and a sledgehammer, both things are going to probably be able to find on your own in your house, but, you know, one of them is going to cause more damage than the other, clearly. So that's why they're not going to be just the same damage. And since it's a single-player solo TTRPG, like, it doesn't matter if somebody wants to cheat, but, you know, it's like use judgment to, like, say some things are going to hit more than others. And because it's a scaling thing, how do I... Normal strife item. Okay. Normal strife item. Alchemy will have the resulting item is damage bonus. Okay, I can save to like have it show up on screen mid-typing. Be based on normal strife item alchemy will have the resulting item's damage bonus be based on a roll or similar RNG. Will be item alchemy will have the resulting item's damage bonus be, I'll just say I'll figure out the randomization process later, but a random number to be rolled for somehow between the addition of half of their damage added, rounded up, added together up to .5% their damage added together. And oh, that just, can I okay, can I I don't like how Kitra deals with... I don't like how Kitra deals with text like this. If it's if it's... I'm gonna really quickly try to pull up another program. Maybe that'll be a better way to handle this. I probably should have done this before. I just didn't think about how much of the text side of this I was going to be doing. What was that noise? Private flexible note taking. Oh, oh. More visually. I might check it out for the next stream. I mostly trying to switch over to okay. Switch over to another thing that I have that's better for I might do that in the next game dev stream, but like I'm just trying to switch over to the paint.net, which is a lot better for okay. Do I want it to capture the cursor? No, I probably don't. Let's move this down. I'll put it on top of the Kitra one. Oh, I shouldn't move myself. Why don't I have that locked down? I should have. Okay. I'll just lock my sprite down for now. Just want to mention it because I'm planning out a larger project. Yeah, that sounds really useful. I'll look into that, and I appreciate it for sure. And if it's good for larger projects, that's good for me, because one of the reasons I haven't released anything too major as Tiger Chimera yet is I just mentally go to larger projects. I know I should scale back. I know I should like start small and build up. I just can't help myself, which is why I'm making a. Which is why I ended up working on a Homestuck Sburb game as one of my first things. Okay. Ups. Okay, and I'll just retype what I got. Oh, it's got one of those. I don't know what the proper term is, but it's making me think of Visual Script with the way that the boxes kind of interconnect and point to each other. Okay. Okay, let's scroll that down there so I can see it while I type. Is that good size on here? I'll zoom in one more time for readability. Okay, maybe a little bit further out so it's don't have to do the paragraph thing too much. Drive. Between addition of half of their damage on their up. Oh, that's the one thing about the text on this program. But it's a lot better for visibility for this kind of stream. I've done it before. I don't know why I didn't start off with this program. I guess I might have planned to be doing more drawing. I'm gonna have to connect the boxes. That's totally optional. It is. It's nice that it's optional, but it's also like nice to connect the boxes whenever it makes sense, especially when things are going to be interconnected, I imagine. I imagine if I end up liking that program, I might spend a lot of the time, my free time preparing streams before the next dev stream, working up to transferring all of that to to that program to work on it. Like a second, yeah, I like note-taking stuff a lot. I mean, not that I don't trust my brain, but like I've over the years I found like I like having notes and I like having stuff organized in folders and having stuff that I can check back on and use it. It's a very nice process. It's very fun. I said it wrong the last time. I said percentage when I meant times. Oh, and I guess I didn't say this before. It just came to me now, but like, I am a variety streamer, so like, I mostly do like an assortment of games of different genres, but I do occasionally try to do art or dev stuff like this, and I'll probably broaden my horizons if the desire arises or ideas form. But yeah, so currently the dev stuff of this is weekly on Sundays, and Mondays and Wednesdays are more game days. But, you know, like, sometimes on Sundays it'll be games, but I'll probably hold off on that until after I complete this. I'm gonna try to be good about, like, staying on this game. But yeah, like, I do all sorts of different stuff. And I'll probably do more dev stuff in the future, but again, it's subject to, like, having the ideas and sitting down and doing them. Okay, so anyway, back to this. I like this stuff. Unique role will determine if alchemized item will gain a combat trait based on one or more of the items alchemized. Oh yeah, that'd definitely be cool if you be cool. So let's see. Like you seem chill. I'm sure your streams would be pretty fun, and I'd be curious what kind of stuff you'd code up. I personally cannot code. That is why I'm making a TTRPG and not a regular video game. I mean, I have interest in TTRPGs anyway, but I've been able to, like, learn some visual scripting, but I look at a wall of text code and my brain shuts off. I think it may or may not be associated with my autism, and I just cannot comprehend code. I've been able to, like, copy and paste code and make it work, but I can't, like, I'm not good at understanding it if I need to change it or write it. At least not at a pace that is reasonable for making a video game for real. Which is what I'd like to do. And so I'm basically waiting for Godot to, like, reinstate Visual Script again. Or at least make a version of it that is good. Because I don't trust Unity. Because Unity is very sketchy with a lot of their practices. Okay, I should probably specify this because some items will not be strife items. To create a strife item, will add 10 if a basic item or as their image bonus for addition might add extra rules. Oh wait, I won't add special key. Should I? But will also give a bonus to the unique roll to add a combat trait. It could help, Celestia's saying, could help if you try coding again. Computer graphics researchers probably go in the direction of that stream. Engine coding and stuff. Yeah. You know, as much as I say I don't have the brain for it, I am tempted every now and again to learn, and I've been thinking again recently about, like, maybe a game kind of thing that might work for trying out, figuring it out, and if it doesn't work, it's the kind of game that won't matter if I fail because it wouldn't be a super serious game, it'd be a fan game. Because I've been seeing some I want to be the guy style games, and well, I need to play more of that the I want to make your game that like lets you just do it level editor style. That doesn't let you do custom sprites, and I'd want to make a fan game where I can do custom sprites, so that might mean like a good excuse to learn Godot script stuff and make something there. And if it doesn't work, then who cares? It's I want to be the game. It's not like a serious attempt at something, and there'd be a template for the design too that I could easily go for a game feel. It wouldn't be like making a unique game that it would have to figure out a game feel for. It's 2D, so it's not as most games that I want to make are 3D, which are much more complex. Okay. Oh, and so I won't go over exact numbers. I may or may not figure out exact numbers off screen for some of this stuff, but grist cost. Grist is the stuff you use for alchemization and house building for alchemy. And since we're using the power scaling thing and combat traits, we can use that as a good example for for like scaling the price of stuff. First cost for alchemy be based on a of and combat traits. The resulting will have none if costs will be somewhat randomized based on all tables. Somewhat randomized based on roll tables of the type and usefulness of item as utility traits that the resulting item will possess. And I'm just gonna like generalize it as utility traits because there's items that will probably do specific stuff, or like, you know, armors or that kind of thing. I'm probably not going to make specific. I'll probably not have the base thing have specific rules for armor and just count them as regular items that are wearable. That seems like the best way to handle that. Alright, I'm gonna do a quick screen thing here because I think that's as much as I think that's as much as I need for that one. At least, unless I think of anything else. But I think that covers most of the aspects of basic alchemy and what mechanics I would need to do it. I just need to get more specific with the numbers, and that's probably not an on-stream thing. What's that? Okay. All right. Now the house construction mechanics. I feel even less confident about this one, but it is one of the main ones on, kind of the main first kind of ones on the list right now. Maybe it'd do me good to double check that list at this point, but oh well. I gotta hit this sometime, and it's not like it's dependent on other things like some of the other stuff in the future. I guess the thing with this is how nitty-gritty do I want the mechanics for this to be? And I'm thinking about it. I think I could maybe make the more specific mapping stuff like an optional rule, and for like the base play I could make this more of like a listing of rooms. Number of floors. To create a personal floor to reach higher gate will require a specific amount of interest determined later. Okay, so I don't know if I really need. Oh yeah, and floors the player should specify where the alchemy machines are placed. And that's what I'm going to set for now. Okay. Alright, I know this hasn't been super high action stream or anything, but it's about the middle of the stream, or the middle of my usual timing, and so I'm going to get some water and rehydrate and stretch, and also before I turn everything back on, I'm going to, since this was a lot more simple than I thought I was going to make it, I'm going to double check what I'm probably going to work on next. So I suggest everyone else to stretch out, get some water, do all that good healthy for you stuff, and I'll be back in a few minutes, I'll say. Alright. I'm back, and I'm going to add one more thing to this before I go over to the last thing that I'm probably going to be kind of brainstorming on for this game this session. Because, like, I think I'd want, like, it's the last of the major boxes. I went through these a lot faster than I expected. I expected, like, to, like, be lingering on, either not have any ideas and kind of get stuck on some of these, or, like only be, like, stuck on one or two of these at best. But, like, I've gone through pretty much all of the major concepts for the, like, priority do first game concepts in this. So I want to figure out, like, kind of like a plan for the next stage stuff, where it gets into the stuff that depends on this stuff. But first I should probably finish this out. Oh, is that upside down? Okay. Alright, so basic non-strife. I might need better terminology for this, but basic non-strife items may have up to one utility trait. If it makes sense for the item, especially things like tools. And there might be special exceptions to that, but that seems like a good rule of thumb for that. And the utility traits, yeah, it's kind of what it sounds like. Is traits that'll help you outside for stuff outside of combat. So, prototyping concepts. Yippee! So, for people that might not know much about Homestuck, prototyping is a concept that causes a lot of stuff to happen. Basically, you have a kernel sprite, and whatever you prototype into them prior to entering the game properly, while you're still in the tutorial stage, will cause the kernel, well, it'll be just a kernel. There won't be a kernel sprite till afterwards. But it'll cause a kernel sprite to turn into the item that's prototyped into it. And it also, prototyping also, would utility be stuff like crafting skill, like bonuses on merging items and stuff. I'm not sure. I guess utility is kind of being used as a catch-all. I was thinking more of like utility, like being able to break a thing with a hammer, to fix a thing with a wrench, to go invisible with a cloak of invisibility, to climb a rope, to sail on a boat, that kind of thing. Stuff that has a very specific usage. And it might get more complex than that, but like that's kind of the general using a tool is the kind of idea, but like it could be more than that for however powerful the alchemized item might be. But yeah, I'm not against having it be used in the sense of like helping with crafting, but or other non-combat roles. It would just depend on what the utility trait or the item would be in question. And if you stick around for future streams of this, you'll see that there are other things that will help with crafting through the alchemy system. There are inbuilt mechanics that will have to be added that will directly affect the crafting system beyond just what we've talked about here. But that is also later game unlocks. And I guess I was going the roundabout way with prototyping. I guess it needs it a little bit, but prototyping in a weird way is kind of like alchemy, but for the entire session. Because you throw the stuff into the kernel, it changes the kernel sprite, which is basically an NPC that helps you and kind of tutorializes you past the initial tutorial, and also is a companion to help fight harder enemies. But it also, the prototyping also affects the session by giving all of the enemies the bonus of whatever you prototyped before you entered the session, and not prototyping before you enter the session is basically frowned upon and will almost assuredly give you a game over of some kind. There's a whole narrative thing there, but TLDR, you also need the prototyping for the end game to be achievable, so you need to prototype before you go in. So this affects a large amount of things. Things prototype prior to entering the medium will affect a large number of things, including enemy powering up enemies. At least one thing on prototyping her character kernel is required. Kernel prior to entering medium is required for a completable game state. I might elaborate on that when I do the proper rule book, but yeah. Both of the two items prototyped. Okay, each kernel can only be typed twice. A combination of items dictates what the it's great NPC will be like. Okay, so since it affects the NPC too, I can probably use a similar, if not the same, rule set for both the NPC and the enemies that get prototyped. I'm trying to remember if there's other things that get directly affected by the prototype besides the enemies. She's affected by prototyping have an HP bonus based on the item prototyped. 5 HP to 15 HP. And again, all these numbers are subject to change, but I think that's a good variety. Like 50 HP is pretty healthy per prototype, and 5, you know, if it's a relatively weaker thing. Also, each get. I'm going to get between 1 to, I'd say 1 to 3 combat traits and 1 to 3 utility traits per prototype. And the HP bonus is also, I should probably specify that. Okay, let's just delete that whole thing. 5 HP, 250 HP per prototype. Underlings will have a prototyping any number between 1 to max prototypings of the assassin, and that's a variable number. This number will have an exact number, have a guide of how it should scale for which areas, how far into session, so you don't just, you know, die from like having too many all at once in an early area. And I'll figure that out and I get to the nitty-gritty of stuff. Agents and arch-agents and royalty of crossfitters. I do this because I don't remember how to exactly to spell carapesans. I think it's carapesans because it's like carapace. And agents and royalty proprietors can gain the bonus of all pre-entry all pre-entry prototypings when equipped with either the Queen's Rings or the King's Scepters. I'm gonna edit this to specify pre-entry 2 because only the kernel sprite that gets a post-entry prototyping. Max pre-entry prototypings. I'm gonna just write this here. Get effects of the two prototypings that it personally received. That'll help with some possible stuff for people that don't know the system. Okay, but scroll that down a little bit. Typing of any number. Okay, I think only am I gonna have to spell Kerfusons anyway? I should. Only Terra-tations can get the prototyping bonus of these items. Any other species are not affected by these items. And that is not just me wanting to balance the game, but that's just a game mechanic balance that is natural to the original. You know, when I was going to, like, come on here, like, the days leading up to this, I was worried about, like, if I was going to have to add a bunch of, like, statistics or whatever that weren't technically there. But since I remembered that I should just lean into the narrative side of this, it was a lot easier. It's just like, alright, I just simplify the combat numbers a little bit. Since a lot of the combat is not even numbered, and it's kind of like generalized with the visual aesthetic, so not that I was going to stay to strict numbers of like health system and that anyway, because that could be differently balanced than I need it to be for fun. But yeah, and also just like the utility and the trait system, I think, is just a good way, because a lot of stuff in Homestuck is also less about strict stats and more about kind of like the utility of an item in combat or out of combat. And so I think that works out very well. It means there's less nonsense to keep track of and more narrative flexibility, and I'll figure out more stuff and I'll probably have examples, but like it'll probably lean into, like, use common sense for, like, what things a character can and can't do and what items the character can and can't use to overcome it. And I kind of like that. And it means the actual mechanical crunch of this game, while there enough to keep a rule system in check, is definitely not, you know, not overbearing or anything. It definitely makes the next part, the next stream, a lot easier in that respect of, like, I won't have to worry about, you know, how it'll be like, since I don't have too many numbers here, it means the numbers that'll come from the other stuff will be easier to anticipate. But I'll be kind of setting up the next stream for that, I think. I think I've kind of hit the limit of what I want to do with this stream in terms of game dev. Alright, I'm back. I want to thank you all for showing up to the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. Normal stream times are Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. More of the game dev will continue, as I've said earlier, on future Sundays. Up until the point that I finish it, I guess. I'm making faster progress on it than I expected, so it shouldn't be super long to make it. I might test it a little bit on stream too, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm going to raid you over to Twitch Chat Gaming. They've finished up the Animal Crossing thing. They'll probably be playing Animal Crossing intermittently in the future, but for now they've kind of closed that up and they've switched the game over to Pokemon Fire Red. So head over there, and even if you don't like that game in particular, it's a fun community. They change the game every so often. It's pretty interesting, so I recommend you give them a look. And see you in the next stream. You have a good day too. Hope to see you in the future.